7 at a blow. One sunny day, a little tailor sat sewing by his open window, whistling happily as he worked. When he stopped to eat his lunch, he cut 2 thick slices of bread and covered them with strawberry jam. But before he could take one bite, some flies flew down to taste it.
"Stop that!"
said the little tailor.
"Or I'll swat you!"
The flies kept on eating, and so he angrily picked up a piece of cloth and swung it at them. Most of the flies buzzed away, but not all. The little tailor saw that 7 of the flies were lying there dead.
"What a clever fellow I am!"
He said to himself.
"I killed 7 flies. 7 flies with one swat. 7 flies at a blow. Think of that. I'll have to let the world town know about this."
He sat down with some cloth and colored threads, and made a white belt on which he sewed these words, 7 at a blow. He tried the belt on and shouted,
"I'll show the whole world what a clever man I am."
As he walked along, the little tailor saw a giant sitting on top of a nearby hill.
"Hello,"
called the tailor.
"I'm off to see the world. Why don't you come along?"
"With you? You miserable creature.
The giant roared.
You're so small. I can hardly see you. I'm going to scratch you with one finger."
"You'd better not try it,"
the tailor said.
"Look and see. I've done something no one else can do."
He threw open his coat so that the giant could see the words 7 at a blow. The giant thought the tailor had killed 7 men with one blow.
7 men? Perhaps you're stronger than you look.
The giant said.
But can you do this?
The giant picked up a huge rock and broke it in half with one hand.
"Nothing to it,"
replied the quick-witted little tailor. He knew he wasn't as strong as the giant, but he thought he was smarter, and he was sure that the giant's eyes weren't nearly as sharp as his. After all, the tailor sewed tiny stitches all day and threaded little needles, and he had to be clear-sighted.
"Watch this,"
he said to the giant, and he crumbled the cheese into many pieces with only his thumb and one finger. The giant was impressed, but he still found it hard to believe that this tiny creature was so powerful.
"That's really good,"
the giant admitted.
"But let's see if you can carry something really heavy."
He pointed to a huge oak tree that had been chopped down.
"If you're so strong, help me carry this tree out of the wood."
"The trouble, Adol,"
the little tailor said.
"You just take the trunk on your shoulder, and I'll carry the branches and the top of the tree, because that's the biggest part."
And so the giant put the great trunk of the tree on his shoulder. As soon as the giant had turned his back, the tailor hopped into the branches of the tree for a ride. Now the giant was carrying the whole tree and the tailor too. The weight was too great, even for the giant.
"Look out,"
he suddenly shouted.
"I've got to let my hand drop."
The tailor quickly jumped to the ground and pretended that he had been holding up his end of the tree. The giant wiped his forehead and looked at the tailor with wonder.
"Well,"
he said,
"you're not a such bad little bird after all."
and the giant stepped off into the forest, still shaking his head in amazement. Tailor marched along, proud and happy at his cleverness. Soon he arrived at the courtyard of a royal palace. Tired by then, he stretched out to rest on the soft grass and went to sleep. While he slept, some of the king's men walked past him and read the words on his belt, 7 at a blow.
"What a strong man,"
they thought, and went back to the palace to tell the king the news.
"He's just the man I need,"
The king declared, and sent for the little tailor.
"There are 2 giants who live in the forest near here.
The king explained.
My people are afraid of them because the giant rob us and kill and burn everything inside for miles around. If you can kill those giants, I will give you my daughter for a wife and half my kingdom besides.
To make things easier, the king said that the tailor could take 100 horsemen to help him. This seemed like a good offer. The little tailor set out for the woods where the giants lived. When he got to the edge of the forest, he spoke to the 100 horsemen.
I don't really need your help, man, he said. A fellow that can kill 7 at one look can easily kill 2 giants.
He tiptoed into the woods and found the 2 giants asleep under a tree. One of them was the very giant he had outsmarted before. The tailor quietly filled his bag with rocks and climbed the tree. From a high branch, he dropped one of his rocks on the nearest giant. The giant woke up.
Why did you hit me?
He asked his companion angrily.
I did,
replied the other.
You must be dreaming.
And so they went to sleep again. This time the tailor dropped an even heavier rock on the second giant. That one now jumped to his feet and grabbed his friend by the throat.
You threw something at me,
he shouted, and knocked his friend against the tree. By this time the first giant was just as angry. They began to hit each other with terrible blows from trees they pulled from the ground. And soon they were both on their backs, dead. The giant had killed one another. The little tailor jumped down and called the horsemen.
Well, here they are,
he said.
The giants won't bother you again. I don't mind telling you it was a quiet battle. You can see that they tried to beat me with these big trees. But don't worry, they didn't touch a hair of my head.
The king kept his promise. The little tailor and the princess were married, and the tailor became ruler of half the kingdom. Later, when the king died, the tailor became ruler of all the land, and nobody ever dared attack him. After all, they knew he was the man who had killed 7 at a blow.